My name is Anuj Tandon. I am a co-founder of Rollicule Games. Thank you for being out here after a really wild night yesterday night. So the panel is very interesting. It's about funding mobile games. You know, taxation will come after you get money. So probably this should have happened earlier because getting money is very important. And we'll try to get some VC's perspective and an indie perspective as to how do you manage to sort of raise funds and what are the challenges, what are the key metrics, because in the end, cash is king in terms of giving life to business. And if you don't have the cash, you would not be able to, you'll be almost there reaching the goal and you'll not be able to make it, right? So it's very important to it. So I'd like to introduce first Shailesh from Sequoia Capital. Sequoia recently invested in Octro and Moonfrog Labs. So good perspective on that. Thanks, Shailesh, for showing up. Then we have Nitish. We all know him from Nazara gaming company, but he's donned a new role. He's also now investing. So it will be pretty interesting to see how a game developer thinks about the investment. We have Gaurav. Gaurav is from Matrix. Matrix have invested in Twist Mobile as well as Red Monster Games recently. And we were hoping to have Arvind. Is he here? Oh, sorry, I didn't see you, man. So Arvind is very interesting. He's one of the few people I know of India who've managed to raise funds out of Kickstarter. So that's a very alternate source of funding. And we'll just kick off the panel with a generic sort of question. I'll not waste time in sort of introductions. They can do it themselves. They're all well known if people want to know about them. You can check out the websites. They're well known. Otherwise, just Google their names. So first question to you, the panel, is mobile gaming a hit-based business? And does that mean it is less likely to get funded because it is a hit-based business in the venture world? How do you perceive it? Yeah, you want to have a go? Nitish, you have the...
Yeah, sure. So while it is a hit business, but there are a lot of, I think there's a lot of talent and a lot of, so you can have a few Flappy Bird type of hits, yeah, but otherwise there's a lot that goes into making mobile games successful. Okay. Whether it is design, whether it is monetization, whether it's customer engagement, iteration based on customer engagement. There's certain qualities that need to be there to have repeated success. Okay. And therefore, I think good quality teams will get funded.
That's good. Shailesh, if you can just add from the venture world, how do you perceive gaming as compared to say mobile apps or messaging, or how do you see gaming?
Yeah, gaming is certainly more content-like than mobile apps. So there is much more element of hits-driven nature, but it's 80% of App Store revenues, so it's a huge business. There have been very successful M&A and somewhat less successful IPO outcomes, but still the absolute dollars have been very significant. So I think it's an area that will attract venture investment, has already, and will attract more. I think it's also a little bit different than the console world or just movies, if you're thinking of other types of content, because of the ability to iterate on things. And as Nitish was saying, there's certainly a level of skill required to do it. It's not something that anyone can do.
Sure. Arvind, do you want to add, is mobile a hit-based business? Being a developer, what do you see mobile gaming?
Well, I think not just mobile, but like any game in itself is a hit-driven business, because no matter what platform you're making on, chances are that your game is not going to take off and it's not going to make back the money that you put into it. But perhaps mobile is more hit-driven because of the sheer number of apps in there. But otherwise, there's always an element of risk associated with any entertainment product.
So Arvind, you're saying basically recently when we say Supercell, these guys have made that into a science, right? They know what to do to make money out of mobile games. So do you think that has sort of reduced the vision that people had about mobile games being just hit-driven, or does that not add to your factoring that it's still a hit-driven business?
No, I do think that companies like that are rare who can reliably and consistently churn out super hit products.
Okay.
Because usually, like there's just one Supercell. There are not many like them.
Sure. So okay. Gaurav, your opinion in terms of mobile?
Sure. So I'll answer the question about whether it's attracting venture funding or not. So I think three things which actually we like, right? So actually, if you look at gaming as a space, it's not a winner takes all market, right? So there's actually space for a lot of companies to win. If you look at the total universe of sort of publicly traded stocks in tech, gaming is a large percentage of that, more than any other industry. The second thing is it's actually fairly capital efficient, right? Unless you actually have product market fits, your CUR or NURR numbers start looking up, you don't need to spend a lot of money on pack,
Okay.
right? So that and essentially what you're doing is you're funding repeatability in teams, as Nitish said. So you are backing pedigree at some point, right? So you're backing either pedigree in development or user acquisition. So small check, multiple large outcomes. It's a reasonably good venture investment case.
So if I have to just summarize, is it a hit-based according to your opinion, yes or no?
So it is definitely hit-based, but there is some science behind it. If you can build teams that no art, no user acquisition,
sure,
you have a better chance of getting that hit.
Awesome. That's the answer that we were looking for. Cool. So we'll go with it is a hit-based business, but there's a lot of science involved to it. So we'll try to understand what the science is really. We'll ask Shailesh this one. What are the key metrics that you guys look at when you are looking to fund gaming companies? What are the key metrics? Is it the MAU, DAU, or it's just revenues?
I think in India right now, if we look at an India-based title, monetization opportunities are limited because of lack of carrier billing. So revenues are an okay metric, but not a very good metric, because we expect revenues to increase drastically when carrier billing or other easier to use payment forms are available. So engagement engagement metrics are the primary ones. Day one retention is interesting, but day 7 retention is more important for us. The number of people who play on a daily basis over the number of people who play on a monthly basis is particularly important. How socially engaged they are in the game. Are they using Facebook or another form of social networking, whether it be their phone book or something like that, to play with friends? Makes them more likely to stick with the game. And perhaps above all, just given how early it is, but the quality of the team is perhaps more important than most of these metrics today.
So if say a gaming studio approaches and they remake paid games, that will not cut it for you?
They make what, sorry?
Paid games, just the premium games.
Yeah, I think paid games, would probably wouldn't cut it for us today.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that's good knowledge, right? You make freemium games, you get VC backing, chances of increases, right? Cool. Gaurav, anything you want to add in terms of what will you look?
No, I think exactly the same things. That look at engagement metrics, look at CURR, NURR, a bunch of those. Look at some pedigree within the team, and I think common to all investments is you do look at founders who can build teams, build a large company, have hunger. I think that's 3 things that we look at.
Interesting. Now I'll get Nitish's opinion on it, because you've been a game developer yourself. You know these metrics, but when you're funding game developers, what are the metrics that you look for? Is it the team that is critical for you, or is it the MAU, DAU?
See, the Nazara game fund that we set up recently is a very, very early stage fund.
Sure.
Probably a bit, we're looking at companies at a slightly earlier stage than maybe what a Gaurav or a Shailesh should even look at. And at that early stage, there are very few metrics, except for the passion and the vision of the team. So I think for me right now, and especially developers focusing on Indian market, are at very early stage. Many of the people I'm coming across are just at concept stage. So at that stage, metrics are difficult, and therefore it's the team that's most important.
Awesome. Moving on, I'll again start with Gaurav this time. Nitish mentioned they come at a very early stage. What stage do you come in at? And like, when should these guys start approaching you? What they should have before they approach you?
Sure. So I think I'll break that up into two. One is when they should approach us anyway. It's always a good idea to speak to us as early as possible. You know, we're good guys, can always meet for a beer. Most of the companies that we've funded probably met the founders 7 or 8 months before the actual investment conversation.
Okay.
Right. In terms of actual investment conversation, what we look at is exactly that, right? So evidence of people understanding how core game economics work, how user acquisition works, how to build some virality. That could either be through past experience in a larger gaming company running gaming P&Ls, or through 1 or 2 games that they built out. Right, that's when we would get interested from an investment point of view. But you know, happy to meet anytime.
Right, Shailesh, again, interesting that you guys come in early also and at a later stage also. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think it's we're fortunate to have less constraints on what stage to invest in. I mean, we the 2 investments that you mentioned, one we came in when it was already a number 1 title, and the other one was pre-launch. So there aren't hard and fast constraints. Whenever you feel ready is perhaps the right answer for us.
So $1 million check is easier to cut than 15 million, obviously, right? So earlier the better. In some ways it is. It certainly takes less effort on our part, but I think it's still a very big decision for both sides. Sure.
You know, an investment decision on to take money from a venture investor it's like a marriage. It's a lifelong or a company-long partnership. So it's not something we try to take too lightly.
Sure, awesome. I'll keep the mic with you. My next question is: games for India market, are only social casino gaming worth funding, or do you look at other genres? Is it like only the gambling games are going to be funded from the next 1 year?
So I wouldn't call these gambling games because you can't take money out. The Teen Patti is not gambling.
Okay.
But it's social casino games. I think just as a category, they have longer retention and more longevity than other categories. I mean, Zynga poker and the other poker games are still well ranked in charts. 6, 7 years later. It's also been a good category from which to build on a platform of games. Again, Zynga was built off. Poker was one of their first successes. So it's a good category from which to cross promote. I think we wish we could see more stuff that wasn't social casino. I think it's also just a maturity thing that people will maybe start off playing a game that they know from the offline world, and then over time graduate to playing other games. And I think, look, if you just see the success of Candy Crush or Clash of Clans, it's not like Indians won't play non-casino games. There's lots of engagement in those games as well. I think the next 2-3 years will be very different in the types of titles we see coming out for India than what we've seen to date. Teen Patti was just obvious, I think, and it was waiting for guys to do it well, and now there's a handful. It's probably going to be a lot harder for the next set of guys who try to do Teen Patti. So hopefully they'll do new and more interesting things.
So say a Clash of Clans with Indian characters would work?
Yeah, if I knew it was, I'd go do it, because it sounds like it'll be a great opportunity. But things along those lines, yeah.
Yeah, Nitish, from your experience, what do the games for Indian market work typically? Because you have what genres of games for Indian market work typically, and would you look at genres when investing? Will it be a specific genre games, or you will look at diverse genres?
So ourselves, we're not limiting ourselves to particular genres yet, because it's still too early to know what's really going to work here. In India, I mean, everyone knows, right? The standard stuff like Teen Patti is doing well, cricket is doing well, Bollywood-related games are doing well, although difficult to monetize.
Yeah.
I mean, recently we ourselves launched the game on Bang Bang, which hit top of the charts just like that, right? So easy customer acquisition, but retention is tough. So each genre has its own advantages and disadvantages. Sure. But I'm sure you're going to see a lot more games beyond the Teen Patti start doing well. Those are the early winners. you probably see a nice cricket game take off.
Cool.
So that's how it is.
Thanks. Arvind, your perspective, you don't make games for Indian audiences, or it's more of a, we make games for global audience, and Indians, if they happen to play, they happen to play?
I'd like to think Unrest was aimed at Indian audiences, maybe.
Yeah.
Like,
So, but it was more of a global appeal, and it had all the shine of a Kickstarter abroad.
yeah, well, making games, like, at least like from my perspective, I don't necessarily aim at like a particular market because I'm a PC developer.
Okay.
And PC players usually don't vary that much in tastes.
Okay.
Depending, I mean, there are some markets who will just play, StarCraft or League of Legends or something like that. But overall, in the PC space, the tastes are more, I guess, similar in different regions. So what I try to do is like I started making games to like bring a certain creative vision to life. So I just like keep sticking that, and now with roughly 3 games out and the 4th coming out, we have a dedicated set of fans who keep coming back.
Sure. So you have an audience that you built for.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. Gaurav, like to comment on the fact that you had 2 investments. Matrix had 2 investments, and one was Twist Mobile, which was a genre. They didn't particularly concentrate on a particular genre. Then you have Red Monster, which is focused on social casino. So what's your take on
Correct. So
that?
actually, Red Monster is not social casino. I think the vision is to build a large social gaming company out of India.
Awesome.
And you'll see a lot more different genre games coming out of the company.
That's good to hear.
So I think not much to add. I think social casino is just the early leader in terms of genres, but I think there's a large social gaming overall opportunity in India, and that's the thesis.
Cool. Pass back mic to Arvind. Arvind, now we want to know about the Kickstarter experience, because the VC funding and is a different question. How is the Kickstarter experience? Is it an alternate source for these guys to raise funds? Is it viable for them? How will it work?
Well, usually in a Kickstarter, the people who back Kickstarters look for a few things. The first thing they look is the developer experienced enough to pull this vision off?
Okay.
Because anyone can throw up a Kickstarter page, but delivering is a bit more tough than that. Then the second thing they look at is usually the people who back Kickstarters are generally on the hardcore end of players. So there are a lot of fans of, say, role-playing games.
Okay.
So they'll be on the lookout for the next role-playing game that matches their tastes. And if you see the past couple of years, a lot of genres that didn't have games anymore saw a revival with lots of fans who were like, yes, I want to play games like these, but nobody's making them. And they ended up raising, like, for example, in Exile, they ended up raising a couple of millions and then 4 millions later on. So in terms of Kickstarter, I think the people who back them look more on the creative end of things, and pedigree is obviously important. If you're an unknown, then making a significant amount of money becomes way harder.
So why didn't you not approach investors to back a vision, or go to publisher?
Well, I approached 2 investors. And like my experience with them was that I told them, look, here's what I'm going to do. I have these games that are already out, and you fund me for the next 2 games and the other standard agreement and stuff, because and then afterwards we can see where this goes, because I'm not experienced in this like PC field, so I don't know how to pitch to them. I was just like, because if you just fund me for the next game, then what am I going to do after 6 months? I need to find something else again. So I was like, at least fund me for the next year and a half, and then we'll see where it goes. But like, they didn't return my calls. So.
Okay, good. So you didn't try hard enough. So publishers, why not publishers?
Publishers are a bit tough to approach. Like, there are a lot of types of publishers now in the market. There are some who won't actually pay you anything upfront and just like will be like, we'll help you in promotion and we'll get you on those storefronts that you might not have access to otherwise. And then there are the publishers who like just fund the game outright. So in my case, I wasn't experienced. Like there are no like traditional publishers in India, basically. Like investors and publishers are different, because publishers don't have a stake in the company; they just have a stake in the product. So it's hard to find people like that in India.
Okay. That's very interesting. Pass the mic to Nitish. Nitish, You guys, when you started Nazara Fund, I mean, being a game developer yourself, there's a different perspective there. Talk us through, the early stage guys who will approach you. Should they approach you, and what they should have, and what is your differentiator in terms of? I know you have an awesome distribution channel, which is huge, right? I read it on the press release for when you invested in Hashkeep. So talk us through that.
So the whole idea of us setting up this game fund was that we realized that a lot of the VCs may be not returning calls, and that's a space we can cover. So we've kept the process very simple. Someone can just write into me or go to our website and write in there. Sure. There's no formal presentations required per se or business models required. You can just come over, see us, and we try and take a quick decision. We can take very quick decisions, so that could be as quick as 1 week.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah. So that's the whole idea, that we want to take quick decisions at the early stage. Because for early stage developers, if you're going to, take 3 months and 6 months, that's too much time. And since Anuj is here on the panel, right, I can share the anecdote that the very fact that we met, right,
yeah,
when Anuj had just started up, and because we as a company didn't have a structure, it took a long time for me to revert to him and miss that opportunity. So we've kept it very simple. In terms of what value add we can add as a company, is that we already have a very strong alternate distribution channel.
Yeah.
So whether it's carriers, whether it's handset manufacturers like Micromax and many others such. So while the developers themselves these days are very focused on the app stores, let's say Google Play, we can very quickly take their games and also give them this alternate revenue channels, which are far more monetizable today. So you see on handsets, we embed games, and because of carrier billing, we get conversions which are 20-30%, which is unheard of. So beyond just the money, we can also kickstart the business very quickly. I think that's one key value add.
That's awesome. How do you see sort of next 1 year, 1-2 years? Like we talked about maturing of the market. How do you sort of see the next 1 year, 2 years for guys who are just starting off with, say, 2-man teams, 3-man teams? What should be the key focus? Should they focus on making great games, building quality, or should they